welcome back to the English Level Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah.
And I'm Jordan. Welcome back. Thanks for being here with us today.
You know, we got a lot of messages from listeners asking about language learning, about travel, about that fear of not being understood when you're far from home. And today we wanted to talk about something really specific, but also really universal.
English for travel, but not the way you think, not the textbook way. We're talking about the real moments. The airport, the hotel, the taxi, the places where language stops being academic and becomes survival, connection, transformation.
So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive into this because what we're about to explore isn't just about words. It's about courage.
Let's begin.
You know what's interesting? We spend so much time learning grammar, memorizing vocabulary lists, but the moment we step into an airport in a foreign country, everything we study just disappears.
That panic, I know exactly what you mean. Your mind goes blank, your palms start sweating, and suddenly you can't remember how to ask where the bathroom is.
Exactly. And I think that's because we've been taught language wrong our whole lives. We've been taught it like it's mathematics, formulas to memorize, rules to follow. But language is survival. It's connection.
It's funny you say that because when you think about it, the airport, the hotel, the taxi, these aren't just places. They're like thresholds, doorways between who you were in your home country and who you're about to become in this new place.
Thresholds. I love that. And at every threshold, there's a gatekeeper, the immigration officer, the hotel receptionist, the taxi driver, and you need the right words, to pass through.
So maybe today we're not just talking about English phrases. We're talking about something deeper, about confidence, about being vulnerable in a foreign place, about the courage it takes to speak when you're afraid of making mistakes.
Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I met a woman named Amara. She was from a small town in Indonesia, and she'd saved money for 3 years to take her first international trip to London.
Her first time on a plane?
First time out of her country. She studied English at night after working 12-hour shifts at a textile factory. She bought one of those phrase books, practiced in front of the mirror. She was ready, or so she thought.
What happened?
She landed at Heathrow, and the moment she stepped off that plane, she told me, it was like someone had stolen her voice. The accent was different. People spoke faster than in her textbook recordings. The immigration officer asked her, "What's the purpose of your visit?" And she froze. Completely froze.
What did she do?
She just handed him her papers and pointed to the word tourism she'd written down. He smiled, stamped her passport, and waved her through. But she said she felt like she'd failed some invisible test, like she wasn't good enough.
That breaks my heart a little because she was good enough. She just needed someone to tell her that communication isn't about perfection.
That's the thing, isn't it? We think we need to sound like native speakers, but what we really need is to be understood and to understand.
So let's break this down. The airport, what's really happening there? What do you actually need to say?
The airport is about clarity and simplicity. You're tired from the flight, your brain is foggy, so you need phrases that are like tools, sharp, simple, effective. Where is baggage claim? Which gate for domestic flights? Is this the line for immigration?
And here's what nobody tells you. You don't need complete sentences. You can say baggage claim with a questioning tone, and people will point you in the right direction.
Yes, because the person you're talking to, they want to help you. They're not grading your grammar. They just want to understand what you need.
But there's something else happening at the airport, isn't there? It's that moment when someone asks you a question. That's when the real fear kicks in.
How long are you staying? Where are you staying? Do you have anything to declare? These aren't hard questions. But when someone in uniform is asking them, when there's a line of people behind you, suddenly your English evaporates.
So what's the secret?
Preparation, not memorization, preparation. Before you travel, sit down and think, what will they ask me? And practice your specific answers. I'm staying for 2 weeks. I'm staying at the Royal Hotel. No, nothing to declare. Simple, honest, clear.
It's like rehearsing for a play where you already know the script.
Exactly. And then the taxi. Oh, the taxi is where things get interesting.
Because that's where the real conversation starts.
The taxi driver is often the first real person you talk to. Not an official, not someone reading from a script, a real human being. And they want to talk.
Where are you from? First time here? How do you like the weather?
And this is where Amara's story gets beautiful. Because after that moment at immigration, she felt so defeated. She got in a taxi, and the driver, a Nigerian man who'd been in London for 20 years, he looked at her in the mirror and said, "First time in London?"
And she answered?
She said, "Yes, first time." Very nervous. And he laughed, not at her, but with such warmth. And he said, "Don't worry. Your English is better than mine when I arrived. I couldn't even say left and right. I just pointed."
That must have changed everything for her.
It did, because he gave her permission to be imperfect. And for the rest of that 20-minute ride, they talked. She asked him how to say things. He taught her that Londoners say the tube instead of the subway. He told her which neighborhoods to avoid at night. He became her first friend in a foreign city.
That's what language really is. It's not about being correct. It's about building bridges between strangers.
And when you're in a taxi, you have power too. Please turn left here. Can you stop at the next corner? How much to the city center? These aren't just phrases. They're negotiations. You're taking control of your journey.
What about the hotel? Because that's where you're most vulnerable, isn't it? You're tired, maybe jet lagged, and you just want to collapse into a bed.
The hotel is about clarity and patience. I have a reservation under your name. Start there. That's your anchor. Then, can I have a room on a higher floor? Is breakfast included? What time is checkout?
But here's what I've learned. Hotel staff are usually incredibly patient with travelers. They deal with people from everywhere. They've heard every accent, every grammatical mistake. They're not judging you.
And if you don't understand something, there's no shame in saying, "I'm sorry, can you repeat that?" Or, "Can you speak more slowly, please?" That's not weakness. That's intelligence.
You know what strikes me? All of these situations, the airport, the taxi, the hotel, they're all about the same thing. They're about asking for help, about admitting you don't know, about being vulnerable.
And that's the hardest part, isn't it? Because we associate language with intelligence. We think if we can't speak well, people will think we're stupid.
But the opposite is true. When you try to speak someone else's language, even imperfectly, you're showing respect. You're showing courage. You're saying, I stepped out of my comfort zone to meet you halfway.
I think about Amara standing in that hotel lobby after her taxi ride. She walked up to the front desk and said, "Hello, I have reservation. Name is Amara Vijaya." The receptionist smiled and said, "Welcome, Miss Vijaya. We've been expecting you."
And those words, "we've been expecting you," they must have felt like magic.
She told me later that she cried in her room that night, not from sadness, but from relief, because she'd done it. She'd crossed the threshold. She'd used her English, imperfect as it was, and it had worked.
So what do we tell someone who's about to travel for the first time? Someone who's terrified their English isn't good enough?
I tell them that language isn't a test you pass or fail. It's a tool you use. And like any tool, you get better with practice.
I tell them to write down 5 phrases before they go. Not 100, 5. The 5 things they'll definitely need to say. And practice those until they feel natural.
Where is? How much? Can you help me? I need. Thank you. Honestly, with those 5 templates, you can navigate almost anything.
And I tell them something else. Smile. Because a smile is universal. A smile says, I'm trying. I'm friendly. Please be patient with me. And most people will respond to that.
You know what Amara told me at the end of her trip? She said that learning to speak English in real situations, not in the classroom, but in airports and taxis and hotels, it changed her. Not just her language skills, but her sense of self.
How so?
She said that I learned that I'm braver than I thought. Every time I opened my mouth and words came out, even clumsy words, I was proving to myself that I could do hard things, that I could survive uncertainty.
That's powerful. Because travel isn't really about seeing new places, is it? It's about discovering who you are when everything familiar is stripped away.
And language is the bridge. The airport, the hotel, the taxi, these are your first tests, but they're also your first victories.
I'm thinking about someone listening to this right now. Maybe they have a plane ticket. Maybe they've been putting off a trip because they're scared their English isn't good enough.
If that's you, I want you to know something. Your English doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be brave. And brave English sounds like this. Excuse me, I need help. That's it. That's the phrase that opens every door.
Because when you say, I need help, you're not showing weakness. You're showing trust. You're trusting that the person in front of you is human, just like you. And most of the time, they'll rise to meet that trust.
The immigration officer will slow down and repeat the question. The taxi driver will laugh and share his own story of struggle. The hotel receptionist will smile and say, "Don't worry, we'll take care of you."
And little by little, phrase by phrase, you'll realize something. The words aren't the hard part. The hard part is believing you deserve to take up space in the world, that your voice matters, even with an accent, even with mistakes.
Amara sent me a message 6 months after that trip. She just booked tickets to Thailand. She said, "I'm not scared anymore. I know I can figure it out."
And that's the real lesson, isn't it? English for travel isn't about memorizing phrases. It's about building confidence. It's about learning that you can navigate uncertainty, that you can ask for what you need, that you can connect with strangers in foreign places and find common ground.
The airport teaches you clarity. The taxi teaches you conversation. The hotel teaches you patience. But together, they teach you something bigger, that the world is more welcoming than you feared, that people want to understand you, that your words, however imperfect, have power.
So go, book the ticket, pack the phrase book if it makes you feel better, but know this, the real language you'll learn isn't in any textbook. It's in the moments when you're standing in an airport at midnight, exhausted and confused, and you gather your courage and say, "Excuse me, can you help me find my gate?" And someone will. Someone always will. Because that's what language is for. Not to prove how smart we are, but to find each other, to help each other, to remind each other that we're all just travelers, trying to find our way home.
Safe travels, friend. Your English is enough. You are enough. The world is waiting for you.